Hello, my name is Richard Westwood from St Anne's Church in Chasetown. I'm one of the team of ministers involved in taking weddings here in the Burntwood Chase team. And if you're watching this video, I expect it's because you're planning to get married in one of the 4 churches in the Burntwood Chase team in the course of the next few months in 2022. Those 4 churches are here: St Anne's Church in Chasetown, St John's Community Church in Chase Terrace, Christchurch in Burntwood, and St John the Baptist Church in Hammerwich. And from the team of ministers who will be involved in taking your services, we just wanted to offer some thoughts in advance of the services which will see you married, which is a huge and wonderful privilege for everyone who will be involved in that. And we hope this short video, along with the letter which we hope you'll receive in the coming days, will be helpful for you as you plan your big day. Firstly, with the letter that you should receive, there's a checking sheet which has all the details of your wedding as far as we understand it, names and addresses and so forth, and that would be really helpful if you can check that information to make sure that what we hold for your wedding booking is correct, the date, the time and so forth, and most importantly that your names are correct as per your birth certificates and your passports. And if there's any change in that information, please do get in touch with the wedding administrator for the church that you're getting married in, so that we can get that sorted out as soon as we can. Secondly, you'll be aware, who can't be aware, that the coronavirus restrictions that have been in place over recent months are still with us, but hopefully by the time you watch this video and receive the letter, they will have been further relaxed. Churches are in quite a delicate position in that respect, because we are required to not only go with the government's guidelines, but also local and national church guidelines, as well as being responsive for the regular members of the church and others who use the church buildings. So we try very hard to make sure that everyone who comes into the church buildings is kept as safe as possible with regard to coronavirus. But also we try and make sure that we're not being overly restrictive or making it difficult. At the time of me recording this video, everyone who comes into a Church of England church for a service or any other activity is required to wear a face covering. But my hope is that will have changed by the time that we come to your wedding day. So please do consult with the minister who will take your wedding, or with the wedding administrator for the church where you're getting married, about what the coronavirus guidelines are for the time when you will be married. We hope they'll be as limited as possible, but it will help you and your guests to know what's required if you check with that in good time beforehand. On to some more regular wedding information. You'll be aware that when you book the wedding, you'll have been asked about where you live, and part of the reason for that is what's called a qualifying connection. Anyone who marries in a Church of England church is required to show that they've got some sort of pre-existing link with that church. And there's a whole range of reasons why that could work. It could be that you've lived inside the parish for a while. Maybe you were baptised in the church. Maybe you've worked in maybe you've went to school in the parish, maybe your parents have lived in the parish. There's a whole series of possible qualifying connections, and the details about that are set forth on the letter that you'll get. If you don't have a qualifying connection, it doesn't mean you can't get married in the church, but we do need to find other routes to enable you to get married legally. So if there's any question mark in your mind about whether you have a qualifying connection for the church that you've chosen to be married in, please do get in touch with us as soon as we can. The most straightforward route to establish a qualifying connection is to become part of the worship and community of the church on a regular basis. Regular meaning usually at least once a month. And that means you're entitled to join what's called the electoral roll of that church, and that then becomes one of the qualifying connections which is valid. So please do take a good look at the details that you'll see in the letter that you receive to make sure that your qualifying connection is valid. It's not normally a problem, and I would have thought that the person who helped you book your wedding in the church would have asked you about that when you booked it, but sometimes things slip through the net, so please do check and get in touch with us if you've got any concerns. A further requirement that we have to go with is one of the government's guidelines to do with proof of identity. In order to prevent false and forced marriages, anyone who gets married in the UK, wherever that is, whether it's a church or a registry office or a hotel, has to prove that they are who they say they are. So we apologise for that, but we do need to ask you please to produce a valid passport as proof of identity. There are other means of proving your identity, but they're a little bit more complicated. So again, if that's going to be a problem, do please get in touch and we'll try and make sure things are as straightforward as we can. If for any reason your name on your birth certificate is different to the name that's on your passport, again, please do check with us as soon as we can so we can iron that out with the registry service to make sure everything is smooth and straightforward. For those of you who may be getting married having been previously married and divorced, then there's a couple of other things to go through to make sure that that's all in order. There's not normally a problem with getting married in church after you've been divorced. That's the situation for me. I was married having been previously divorced, and the church is normally really delighted to be able to help everyone have a fresh start in that way. Part of the legal guidelines we have to go with is to make sure that the minister taking the service has seen the copy of the decree absolute for anyone who's been divorced having been previously married. And normally the minister taking the service will want to have a chat with couples where that's the case to make sure that can happen in good time before the service takes place. It's normal for there to have been 2 years between the date of the decree absolute and the date of the intended marriage. Again, any concerns or worries, then please do get in touch and we'll do what we can to work things through. With the letter that you'll receive about the information to do with your wedding, there should also be a copy of the relevant marriage fees that apply in the church that you're getting married in. The standard fee for getting married in a Church of England church in 2022, if my memory serves me right, is £512. The details are actually in the letter that we'll send to you. And there are a series of other optional or additional costs which you may be invited to make. Those are normally to help the wedding go smoothly. So the kind of bare minimum, if you like, is 512, and your wedding administrator for the church where you're getting married will guide you through what's involved with that. If you have an organist or if you choose to have the choir, those sort of things. Many people feel they need to have a verger. That's someone who will help get the church ready for when you come to take your wedding. That's something that's well worth doing, but they are all optional. So please do speak to the minister taking your service or to the wedding coordinator in the church and they'll guide you through that. One of the changes that happened last year during 2021 is that the government changed the way that marriage certificates are arranged. Previously, churches were able to ask couples to sign a register, and then the minister who took the service would fill in the marriage certificate and give it to the couple on the day of the wedding. That changed last year, and what now happens is that churches are required to put together what's called a marriage document. And the couple, after they're married, sign the marriage document, and that's then taken by the minister or sent by secure transfer to the registry office in Lichfield. And then Staffordshire County Council will register your wedding, register your marriage, and you're then able to apply for a copy of your marriage certificate by going online, and there are details of that on the letter that you'll get. So there won't be a certificate issued to you at your wedding, and that's now the norm and the requirement the government have put in place. You will be probably invited to sign the local church register, which is a bit like a visitor's book for weddings, if you like, which keeps a local record for the church of who's married in the church. And it does provide a good opportunity for a photographer, if you have one, to take a photograph afterwards of you signing the register, which is often a part that many couples like to have recorded. But the certificate isn't issued to you on the day, and that will happen. You normally can get a hold of the certificate within about a week and a half after your wedding. So it's worth bearing in mind that if you need to have that certificate to go away on a honeymoon maybe or something, because of other proof of ID and so forth, then it's worth bearing that in mind, and we can guide you about how we might be able to speed that process up potentially. Often the registry office actually completes the registration on the day that we take the marriage document in, but that may not actually you may not be able to retrieve the copy for a couple of days while it works through their systems. But if you've got any concerns, please do let us know, and we'll do all that we can to make it as smooth as possible. Finally, a word about the minister who will be conducting your marriage service. There's a team of 4 of us who take those services this year, and in the course of the next few weeks we'll be in the process of getting in touch with all of the couples who are being married. The people who you might be meeting: Reverend Ruth Edmonds, Reverend Matt Wallace, Reverend Steve Morgan, and myself, Reverend Richard Westwood. And it's our delight and privilege to be involved in taking your wedding. We take that huge responsibility very, very seriously, but it is a massive privilege, and we will be delighted to talk to you about anything we can do which might help to make your day go more smoothly. You might also want to get in touch with the wedding coordinator for the church where you booked your wedding, and they'll guide you through some of the information, like arrangements for photographers, cars and so forth, all of which are important and help to make the day go more smoothly. The person who's taking your wedding will be in touch with you well before your wedding to discuss the possibility of arranging a date for a rehearsal. That's where we walk and talk through the service along with some of the key people who might be involved, like bridesmaids, best men and parents, or whoever might be accompanying the bride. Or that date will normally be in the week before the wedding, but it's important to make sure there's the space for that rehearsal. It just helps people's nerves to be managed well, and hopefully it gets everyone in the right frame of mind with the right information so the day can go absolutely fantastically. I think that's all the things we need to pass on to you today, but please do get in touch if there's any way that we can help you. We really want your wedding to be the fantastic and special day that you want it to be as well, and that's what we're praying for. And please be assured the churches where you're getting married will be praying for you by name as you approach the date of your wedding. Oh, and there's one more thing I meant to mention to do with that, and that's to do with banns of marriage. Forgive me for not mentioning this earlier. Banns of marriage are the legal means by which people are allowed to get married in a church. And what we have to do, churches have to announce in the weeks before you get married, the public arrangements for your intention to marry. So usually in the month before your marriage, in the first 3 Sundays of that month, the church where you're going to be married, will announce that this person and this person are intending to be married. And they announce that for those 3 Sundays of the month before you're getting married. So if you get married in August, those announcements will be made in the church where you're getting married in the first 3 Sundays of July, and so forth. One feature to bear in mind is that this has to happen not just in the church where you're getting married, but also in the local parish where you live. So if you live in a different place, a different parish to the church where you're getting married, you do need to approach the local minister for that parish and ask them to announce your banns of marriage in good time before your wedding day. The wedding won't be able to take place unless those banns of marriage are called. So please do make sure you get those things in place. There are other routes to make the marriage legal if you don't for any reason want to go through banns of marriage announcements, but they are more complicated and a little bit more expensive, and so it's worth making sure that the banns of marriage process has been completed satisfactorily. And again, we'll guide you through that if there's anything that you might need to be able to do that. But in all these things, the best thing to do is get the ball rolling early. Then if there are any hiccups or issues to sort out, we've got time to support you with it and make sure that it's all okay. It sounds complicated, but we're experienced at taking weddings, and we know we will do our absolute best to make sure that any concerns or anxieties you have about getting everything in line, that we've helped you through it so that you can be certain you're all set and ready to be married on the day you've chosen. We'll be praying for you, as I mentioned, and we thank you for choosing to get married in the Burntwood Chase team. Please do get in touch. God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you on your wedding day in the coming months.